Hey guys, I'm Mike Curtin. This is the Brew World Order podcast, and today I'm with Jordan Fink, co-owner of Woods Boss Brewing Company in Denver, Colorado. Pardon me. Jordan, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, Mike?
All right, not bad. Can you, thank you for being with us first and foremost. Finally made it work. Awesome.
Yeah, it's been like a month and a half
Uh,
in
all good, man.
process.
Things
Yeah,
happen, you know. So,
yeah. Life is a shit show.
of
It's all
course,
good.
of course.
Yeah,
So, can you give us a little breakdown of, where you grew up, the whole thing, and just a little background
yeah,
story
yeah.
of how you got into the brewing
Absolutely.
industry?
Right on. I'll try and keep it quick. It's a long fucking story, but
That's fine.
we'll truncate it for you.
All right.
So I'm originally a New Yorker, actually. I grew up in Westchester, born in White Plains. We moved from Ardsley to Chappaqua when I was a little kid. For all you New Yorkers out there, folks are all New York. My mother was Brooklyn, my dad was the Bronx, and then Long Island, where he ultimately grew up. Unfortunately, my brother lives in New Jersey now, but that's okay. I get to give him shit about it.
Okay.
All good. Anyway, I left to go to college at CU Boulder here in Colorado
Right.
after I graduated from high school, and then continued to migrate west. Ended up in Oregon and Washington, and then Alaska before coming back to Colorado. 2009, I think, is when I moved back here with a lot of other weird adventures along the way. Originally went to school for hydrology, fluvial geomorphology, and watershed science, which is a lot of words to mean that I liked learning about water and rivers and
Right.
stuff in the natural environment. Went to grad school for that. Decided I didn't actually want to do that. Ended up becoming a high school science teacher, and then started home brewing a long time ago with the idea that someday I'd open up my own brewery. Um, Along the way, I lucked into a job at Tommyknocker Brewery. It's up in Idaho Springs here in Colorado. They're one of the OG breweries
Right.
that are still around from the early 90s here in Colorado. Uh, Learned a lot. Ended up getting back into education for a hot minute just cause, before deciding that time was ripe to start my own brewery, and ended up getting a job to help build the first craft brewery in Nepal. So I moved over there for a better part of a year, came back, kept working in the industry back at Tommyknocker, another place called Odyssey, before starting Woods Boss, and we're coming up on 5 years since we opened now. Along the way, I used to work for the Forest Service for a long time, and I worked for a youth conservation corps doing similar sort of stuff, trail work, working with kids, environmental education, all that sort of stuff. And my job title when I worked for the youth corps was Woods Boss. And it's where I met my wife. A lot of my most batshit crazy formative experiences as a young guy happened there. So it's a big part of kind of who I am and what I'm all about, and wanted to bring that into the company. And in talking with Chad, my partner, about names, my wife was the one who suggested that. Chad was like, "What's Woods Boss all about?" And I told him, and the Woods Boss is the guy or gal that basically runs the crew, right?
Right.
That brings the fun, brings the crazy work ethic, brings the wacky and the skills and the experience, helps to really build the community and basically, be the best version of themselves as possible. So that's what we're all about here.
Very cool. And what was that moment for you that kind of sticks out? That was that aha moment where you guys decided, you and Chad were like, "Hey, we're doing this. We're opening a brewery."
Yeah. So Chad and I met hanging out at shows, actually. Friends in common, a friend of mine from high school, actually from way back in the day. His sister, who I'm also friends with, lived with Chad's wife, ski bumming up in the mountains a long time ago, and we were at a Red Rock show seeing some bluegrass, and they walked right in front of us, and my buddy Dan was like, "Hey, Chad, Katie," and ended up meeting them. That was years and years ago, and then would just run into Chad, a couple times a year at concerts. We're both, big fans of Fish, and we'd see each other at the Fish shows out here every single year, and
Cool.
it was 2014. And I got hired to go to Nepal, and Chad and I were having a beer after the show on the tailgate of someone's truck and just shooting the shit. And he's like, "What are you doing now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm moving to Nepal to open up a brewery, but when I get back, I want to open up my own, and I'm looking for a business partner. Because I know the brewing side, but I don't know shit about business, and I'm looking for someone who can
Right.
actually
Right.
kind of handle the reins on that side." And Chad's like, "I'm a business guy. I like beer. Let's talk." So we talked while I was in Nepal, started working on some concept and business plans, and I got back and we met up for a beer, and we're like, "Are we doing this?" And we're like, "Yes, let's do this." And about a month and a half later, he took off for 7 or 8 months to go overlanding. He bought himself a big beefed out truck, grabbed his wife and dog, shifted down to Buenos Aires, and then spent 8 months just tooling around the Pan American Highway, starting from Buenos Aires and working their way up to Colombia, I think is where they ended up.
Very cool.
And he and I would be, just Skyping throughout whenever he had reception. I'd be walking around showing him pictures of, video of different places that we were looking to lease out, and, working on all that sort of stuff. And he got back, and it was like maybe 3 weeks later that we found this place. And got to hit go. So,
Awesome. And
does that count as an aha moment? I don't know.
yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, I
Sure.
mean,
Why not?
and it's cool that you mentioned Fish. They actually just, I didn't go, but they had a show on my birthday, 420,
Yeah.
here in New York.
Yeah, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. That date sounds familiar. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Everyone steals the fucking 420 road signs off the Colorado highways
I
every
mean,
year.
yeah,
I mean, they stopped putting them back.
yeah. There's no point.
Whatever.
There's no point. They're just
I
gonna
quit
take them.
smoking pot when I was like 18. I started young, but I found it just makes me fucking paranoid.
Yeah, it
Fuck.
doesn't. I don't know. I get a little. I can't stop moving. I'm all over the place with it. I'm. Plus, on
Uh,
top of that, my job doesn't let me do it anymore. So,
yeah, yeah.
random
Totally.
drug test,
I
but
used to be a firefighter as well. So
right.
it's,
Yes.
yeah, my resume, if I put down everything I ever did, would be like fucking 12 pages long.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of shit.
Same. Same.
Ski bumming and working in a deli and firefighting and trail work and brewing and teaching and yada yada yada.
I'm the same way. I gotta stay busy. Gotta stay busy.
Yeah.
So, from the start of you guys deciding to open a brewery together, to the moment you finally open your doors, throughout that whole process, what was one of the hardest things for you?
Um, I, I'd say one of the hardest things was finding a good place to put a brewery, right? Finding a place that was in a spot that we wanted it to be, that had all the stuff that we wanted it to have, that was reasonably priced, because there are some amazing spots, but if they're charging like $40 a square foot, like there's no way we'd never make it.
Right.
So that was one of the hard things, and the other hard thing is, just coming up with funds, right? It costs a lot of money to open up a brewery, and we got really creative, and we got really lucky with, some friends and family that basically offered to lend us money rather than take a bite out of any equity. And Chad and I are 100% 50-50, so we didn't have to give up any control or any stock or anything like that. So those are kind of the two hardest things. I mean, designing a brewery, that stuff, I've been doing it for a long time. That wasn't that bad. And then, just time frames always getting pushed back. Permits from the city,
Yep.
Got extended for months and months, and all that sort of stuff.
That's with
But beyond that,
permits.
actually wasn't that bad.
permits, construction, always. Whatever
Yeah,
time they give you, just tack on like 6 months to that.
or more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Everyone who hits me up about advice for opening up a brewery, I'm like, give yourself an extra fucking year,
Right,
at least.
for
I mean,
sure.
and if you blow that out of the water, awesome. But you have to plan for things to take a lot longer, especially now. I mean,
Oh,
supply chain
supply chain,
logistics
yeah.
and shipping
Right,
and taxes and tariffs and whatever.
right. So you guys opened up in 2017, correct?
Uh, yeah,
Was it
yeah, we
August
did.
or was a little
August.
August 2017?
August 11th is our, grand opening date.
Okay,
We had a,
soft
2 weeks
opening.
worth of like some soft
Right.
opening, little stuff going on, but
So,
yeah,
you were open for give or take 2.5 years before the whole COVID situation occurred with shutdowns and all that.
yeah,
How did you go about dealing with that, pivoting and making it work for your business?
yeah. I mean, look, it's been hard. There's no doubt about it. And at the end of the day, the brewery that we designed, that we planned for, is different than the brewery that we have right now.
Okay.
And that was a matter of necessity and being nimble, and seeing some opportunities. But basically, what it comes down to is this: uh, we were never a packaging brewery. We were planned, designed intentionally to be a taproom focused, community focused brewery where this is where you came to get it. You couldn't really get it out in the world.
Hmm.
I mean, we'd sell some kegs around town, stuff like that, but we saw that more as almost like paid marketing. Someone has our beer, never heard of us at some bar, and they're like, "Oh, it was really good." Maybe they want to come check out the brewery itself, get our name out there a little bit. Um, Having worked in packaged breweries, it was not something that I really wanted to do. Didn't really like a lot of the restrictions that come with putting beer in cans. But we made a really hard shift, like a lot of folks do. We saw the writing on the wall. We knew stuff was coming. They let us know like 2 weeks before, or something like that, that they were going to be shutting down everything, um, at least here in Colorado. So we're like, all right, this is happening. Um, People won't be able to come to get our beer. We have to put it in cans and get it out there.
Right.
We could sell beer to go, and we're going to start trying to get in some liquor stores. We'd never done that before. The guys who were going out and selling kegs now start showing up at liquor stores saying, "Hey, we're in cans now."
Right.
So when we found out that we were getting shut down, we called a lady who'd done some artwork for us. Like, "Can you make some labels for us?" We got it out. We called that day to one of the local mobile canning operations. We're like, "Can we get on the books?" So it was about, we got shut down on March 17th,
Right.
something like that. And we had beer in cans on April 7th, which is really quick turnaround for,
Yeah. Right.
on April 8th, March 8th, having no clue that we were going to put beer in cans.
Right.
And it started working well. It was actually the day after my daughter was born. So I was still in the hospital,
Wow.
hanging out with my newborn when we were putting beer in cans, and I didn't get to be there. Which, I mean, I'm not going to trade that.
No,
But
absolutely not.
it was, yeah, it was.
There's some people
I
that
mean,
might, but hey, you know.
I'm not that guy. No. Um, so but it was still a bummer. It was like, "Oh, we've never had a canning run here at Woods Boss, and here I am stuck with my wife and daughter." No, I mean,
Right.
it's good. But it worked for us, and we tried to keep the model that we have in the tap room, as far as it goes with cans, right? So we've got 20 beers on tap in the tap room, constantly rotating. We have maybe 5 or so year-rounders, and then 15 that we just kind of keep changing. Maybe it comes back once a year, once
Nice.
every 2 years, or something brand new that never comes back again, or maybe it will. Who knows? Because my whole thing is that I actually do not care what you like to drink. I mean, I like that you like to drink. I want you to find something that you like, regardless of what your style is, when you come into Woods Boss. So we have hazies and West Coasts and pale ales and porters and stouts and browns and English style and Belgian shit. sours and weird barrel-aged stuff and whatever.
Right.
We're all over the map because I love beer and all its different varieties.
Right.
And so do other people, right?
Yeah, as do I.
So when we started canning, I mean, we had at any one point 12 to 16 different beers out in the market. Lots of variety because, you know, you walk into a liquor store, you might not be able to find a wit. You might not be able to find an English style brown. You might not be able to find a porter. You'll always find IPAs and you'll always find pilsners, and
Of course.
but we do those too. So, you know, for the folks who are like, God, I want something that's not what everyone else wants all the time, like, we can do small runs and we do that. So that has worked out pretty well for us over the course.
Nice. Now, but besides
Yeah.
a pandemic, besides a pandemic, obviously, what's something that you never thought you were gonna have to deal with when opening a brewery?
Um, honestly, can't really think of anything. I mean, the thing about it is, I worked in the industry for about 10 years before actually opening my own, right? So I'd seen a lot of things, and I'd spoken to a lot of friends who opened breweries who gave me a lot of heads up, and had a pretty good handle on what we were getting ourselves into.
Right.
You know, I mean, we downtown Denver, we definitely have a little bit of a homeless issue down here. So I guess I would say I had not anticipated seeing people taking sink showers and shaving their head in my brewery bathroom
Gotcha.
and having to
Gotcha.
deal with that. But beyond that, I mean,
You
you
have a
know,
little
we make
mini
beer,
ho-
we sell beer.
You have a little mini hotel going on over there.
Yeah. Also, didn't anticipate, you know, having our power drop because dump truck forgot to lower his bed and ripped out the power for the block one day. Um, didn't anticipate having my 1974 F-250 piece of shit beater truck get stolen out of the parking lot, and then having to learn how to hotwire it myself when I went to pick it up from impound when it got discovered because they had ripped all
Jesus.
the wiring out. But you know,
You got to think like a
you
criminal,
make it
man. Come
work.
on.
Yeah, no, hey, it's a good skill to have. Is all I'm saying. And
Yes,
now I know how to do it.
for
So,
sure.
taught myself in like 2 minutes. Like, oh, there's some wires. Let's just start touching stuff and see what happens. I've seen it in the movies. It can't be that hard.
Yeah. Speaking of
Worked
good
out.
qualities, what qualities do you possess that make you a good business owner?
Personally, um, I don't know. I guess passion, work ethic. You know, we work our asses off. You, you can't expect to open a brewery and have a 40-hour work week. It's just not the case.
No.
Having a lot of fun, being able to connect with folks. I mean, and representing my business, my brewery, and you know, this is such a big part of my life, representing it well. So for the first 3 years, myself, Chad, and Ryan, our head brewer, I'm still a brewer. I just don't get to do it all that often. You know, that's their job. My job is to do the rest of it, mostly behind a fucking computer.
Right.
Anyway, but we worked the bar every Wednesday. It was the three of us, owners, brewers, for almost 3 years, and that was a big part of who we were. And that's one of the things that we do really well is, you know, connecting, telling our story, and having fun while doing it.
Awesome. So,
It's hard to be asked like why you're awesome.
yeah,
When you come
right.
up with
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Why are you in business right now?
yeah,
um,
sure.
so, what do you think is one of the hardest adjustments you had to make since opening?
Um, I mean, I think it comes back to the shifts that we made since the start of the pandemic, right? So you start a business, you have this dream, this vision for how it's going to go, and it's going that way. And then, you know, you get a wrench thrown at you, and you need to dodge and shift. And
Right.
the brewery and the business has to shift and take on a life of its own. And for me, it's been hard coming to terms with the fact that who we are now in terms of what we're doing and how we're doing it is different from who we were then. And it's harder. It's more work, and more money to go out the door to keep the lights on and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So we have to work harder to hold pat or even make less, and all that sort of stuff. And some of the creative stuff that I really enjoy is harder to fit in the schedule now because canning is such a big part of what we're doing. And I can't make some of the weird shit that I like because it might tie up a tap for a lot longer than it should when we need to be able to put some beer in cans and get it out the door. So, for me, that's been the hardest thing is just kind of being okay with things being different. Change is challenging.
Yeah. Get
But
on.
beyond that, it's all good.
Yeah, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
It's what my wife always says to her students.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the truth, man. You gotta, life's ever changing. You gotta adapt, otherwise, get left behind.
Yep. Adapt or die.
Yeah. Uh, I'm sure you've come across a lot of people in the beer industry, or might have been influenced by a lot. Who you think's influenced you the most in the beer industry?
Um, I'll keep it to people that I know personally, rather than, you know, old school brewers and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, this industry is constantly reinventing itself, which I love. You know,
Yeah.
I love most of the things about that. There's some stuff within the industry that drives me a little batty, but it's all good. My first boss in the craft beer world is a guy named Steve Rouse. He was director of brewery operations at Tommy Knocker, and just a fantastic guy. Knows his shit. Been doing this for 25 years, right, or longer. And really, like he's one of those true legends within the industry that very few people know about, but the people who know about him
Right.
know just how quality is. And you know, he took a chance on me and brought me in. I mean, I had no professional brewing experience. I was just some dude who'd been homebrewing for a while and really passionate about it, and showed up and asked for a job. And he's like, you know what? One of my brewers gave notice 2 days ago. I need a warm body. Come hang out, and we'll see how you do. And
Right.
turned into a job and turned into a career. So, but he also taught me a lot as well, and taught me how to do this challenging business with both humor and humility.
Gotcha. And you talked about before about changes in the industry. Care to elaborate? What things that are kind of not to your liking?
Um, so I mean, I'm a little. I, I don't know if old school is the right word, but I'm a big fan of brewers that take their craft really, really seriously, and that's important to me because I do, right?
Right.
Being really intentional with beer design, being really anal when it comes to quality and all that sort of stuff. And you know, there's so many folks out there these days. I mean, we have 8,000 some odd breweries right now, and there are some folks doing stuff that I'm like, I don't get it. I don't personally like it, but that's your thing. Go for it. It's all good.
Right.
You know, a lot of the sort of hype marketing stuff, you know, drives me a little nuts. Untapped drives me absolutely fucking crazy. That, you know, beer has become this, you know, Yelped sort of thing, and you know, bandwagon sort of stuff. And I'm a big fan of like, look, If it's really good, drink it.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what the can looks like. It doesn't matter all that sort of stuff. You know, find the places that you like, support them, but keep trying other stuff. I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of beers where people are just throwing shit at the wall, and the beer is not good. You know, some of it is,
Right.
but some of it's not. And my problem with that is, let's find the weirdest shit that we could throw into a beer, and regardless of whether or not it's good, we're still going to sell it. Right?
Yeah, that's not good.
That's a problem that I have.
Right.
We've tried some weird shit that didn't turn out, but we didn't sell it because it was not something that I would stand behind, and that's a problem for me at any rate. Because making shitty beer, and there are a lot of people making really good beer, but there's also a lot of shitty beer out there, and that's a problem for the industry as a whole.
For sure. For sure. I do like Untapped for one
We've
big
all had
thing
shitty
though.
beer, right?
Huh?
We've all had shitty
Of
beer.
course.
You're like, what
Of
the
course.
fuck
Yeah.
were they thinking?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I guess,
Yeah.
you know, there's also a big profit loss when it comes to when you make a big batch or something and you're like, well, we can't dump it, so we got to try and make a little money back on it, you know.
Yeah, but for me, it's all about reputation, right?
Of course, because it could be the one time
That's
somebody
where we
walks
live
in
and
there.
die.
Somebody could walk in
Yeah,
there one time and try that beer and be like, this place sucks. I'm out of here, you know.
right. If I made a chocolate fennel sauerkraut, you know, pilsner, it was fucking disgusting. Like, well, I'm gonna sell it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what I'm talking about is that being intentional, that actually taking care with your beer design and execution. I see a lot of that not happening
Right.
out there in the world.
But
But
yeah,
you know,
back,
folks are having fun, so more power to them. It's
yeah.
all good.
Back to Untapped though. Like I was saying, the one thing I really like about Untapped is that if you're looking for a beer, you can find it in your area. That's you know, one of the main things I'll
Yeah,
use it for. That's kind of cool. That's a cool aspect of that app.
there are. I don't mean to entirely throw Untapped under the
No,
bus.
no, no, no. But I understand what you
But
mean with the whole Yelp aspect.
yeah, so I mean, there's a couple things there, right? Untapped is cool when you can use it as sort of like, these are all the different things that I've tried. You can make notes in it and come back to it and all that sort of stuff. The rating system is weird. I mean, if you look at statistics and social, the way that large masses of humans respond to any particular thing, it makes it weird, right? So I'll give a couple examples. People will sometimes look at an average rating and use that as their baseline rather than taking a beer at its own pace, right? So they're like, oh, no one else rated this, or I mean, the average is like a 3.8, so there's no way I'm going to give it like a 4, 4.5, even if I fucking love it,
Right.
because I don't like being an outlier. There's one thing.
Right.
Number two, people will also rate beers higher based on breweries that have, you know, a good reputation, even if it's not a great beer. They're like, oh, these guys are great. I don't want to bash them, or like everyone else is giving
Right.
it a high rating, so I feel like a putz if I don't.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, not everybody has the palate of you know, a beer snob. There's just a basic
Yeah,
any basic person could go on there and you know and could be like, oh yeah, this is, you know, I like this brewery,
and
so
that's fine too.
get
But
this gets a
when,
5.
yeah, I mean, so when someone drinks a style that they know they don't like, right, and it might be perfectly crafted, perfectly to style, they're
Right.
like, I don't like porters, and it's a fucking amazing porter, and they're like, 1 star, 1 cap, whatever it is, because I don't like porters, and they say that in there, like, I don't like porters, 1 cap. That's just fucking weird. Like, why would you even rate it? Why would you even drink it? I mean, drink it, sure, but why rate it?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
What the hell's wrong with people?
Who knows?
It's all good.
Who knows? So,
Yeah,
is there a
but it
moment?
matters to our business at the end
Of
of the day.
course, yeah, of course,
People do look at that shit.
for sure. Um,
Yep.
so, is there a moment that kind of sticks out for you? that made you realize things were going in the right direction?
One singular moment?
Yeah.
No, it was just sort of, we felt really good from day one. I mean, we were excited. We had a really positive reception right out of the bat. I made a lot of friends in the industry for years, and it's great having that support and folks telling other folks to come by your brewery.
Right.
So, the I don't know that there's one moment. It's just felt pretty good right out of the gates. We worked really hard. We were really intentional about setting this place up right, designing beers, making sure that all the things that we wanted were in place, including our staff. Right.
Right.
We took a while. We started the hiring process well in advance so that we could bring the right team together and keep it going. A good chunk of the folks that are here have been here with us since day one, and the folks that have left, it's not that they didn't want to still be here or we didn't want them. It's, a couple of them moved out of state or something, pursuing other opportunities, that
Right.
sort of stuff. It's all about the culture and the crew and, the place and the beer. I mean, it's all tied in together. And I've personally been ecstatic about it since day one, despite the days where things don't go right and the challenges and the random person who's having a shitty day and blows you up, like whatever.
It's like a kid.
That happens.
Sometimes, it's like a kid. Sometimes they can be a jerk, but you still love them all the same.
Yeah.
You still want to mold them.
Yeah, I mean, look, for the most part, any business, even the ones knocking it out of the park, are going to have bad days.
Of course,
It just happens. But the good days way outnumber the bad ones. And at the end of the day, I'm living the dream that I wanted to live. So
Right.
hard to complain.
Gotcha. And how do you define success?
I'll let you know when I figure out the definition.
Is there
I mean,
is
honestly,
there in your head
I,
a way of feeling successful?
I mean, for me, success has always been about personal relationships and my own feelings about how well I've done based on what I'm trying to do, right?
Right.
And that comes down to, do I feel good about the effort that I'm putting in? Do I feel good about the relationships that I'm building? Do I feel good about what the business is doing, not just from a beer perspective, but the other things that we do, and contributing to nonprofits and charities, and getting the word out about cool stuff and all that sort of stuff. So that for me, and even if Woods Boss ever goes under, I'll still feel successful because all those things happen.
Right.
There will always be things outside of our control, but at the end of the day, knowing that I put my best foot forward, worked my ass off, was a good person, good colleague, good boss, good whatever. Just a good human. The folks that I get to interact with on a day, that for me is success.
Gotcha. And is there?
That comes back from my grandfather. He was all about that. Native New Yorker, spent his whole life there.
Awesome.
Yeah, he ended up living in North Shore Towers right up to the end.
Really?
Right off Central Park Boulevard. What is that? Not far from you. It's those tall towers that are like, technically they're Queens, but they're on Long Island.
I know what you're talking
Don't worry
about.
about it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know exactly where it's off of, but yes, I'm familiar with those towers. I know somebody that actually lived there. So, is how important is a mental break for you from the stresses of owning a business?
Very. I mean, look.
And what does that look
right?
like for you?
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to take that time, right? Because there's always something else to be done.
Right.
Like I said, I've got a 2-year-old. and a family, a wife, all that sort of stuff. So, work is 10, 12 hours a day, and then home is the rest of it, minus the 5 hours I sleep a night, right?
Right.
So carving out time is really important. I don't do it enough. I know that. But for me, it's getting out in the woods, going for a hike, climbing a peak, sitting by a creek or a river for a while, going on adventures, little bit of travel, whatever it is. That's the piece for me that's a mental break. And on the rare occasion that I get to hang out with some friends and, tie one on, let loose a little bit, go to shows, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Those are the big ones for me.
Yeah, I like a good concert, man. It's a way
Yep.
to let loose,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
And what was your gateway beer into the craft beer world?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm an East Coaster. So I remember being, I don't know, 14, 15, and someone gave me a Newcastle Nut
Newcastle
Brown.
Brown Ale.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this doesn't taste like shit. And then from there, Saranac, all the stuff, Black
Right.
and Tan was always great, and Pete's Wicked Ale when that was around,
Pete's
and
Wicked. Yeah, man.
yeah, for sure. I never got into Magic Hat because I don't like apricot.
Okay.
But
I
I
did.
mean,
I like that.
yeah.
That was
No, a lot of people do. It's not my thing.
that was like my
And then
wheat. That was like my wheat phase when I was drinking Blue Moon, and then I was like, oh, this is
yeah.
interesting.
Never got into Blue Moon either. I mean, I love Belgian stuff, but Blue Moon never did it for me either.
Right.
But then, moving out to Colorado, getting exposed to a whole different realm. Oh, do you remember Blackened Voodoo? Those
No, I don't
it's
remember.
like a dark lager. I can't remember where it was out of. I want to say it was like Louisiana, New Orleans, or something like that. But they used to carry it at the A&P or the Grand Union, wherever it was. I was like, oh, that's
What?
something different.
What
Oh,
is it
cool.
called? I'm sorry. One more time.
Blackened Voodoo. That was a big one.
Blackened Voodoo beer.
Sammy
Yeah.
Smith's um, oatmeal stout and Tatty Porter, and then moving out here in the Northwest.
Yeah. Dark lager.
I drink. What's that?
Dark lager.
Yeah,
Blackened Voodoo.
that's
They
right.
they still looks like they still make it.
I can't say if it's still any good, but I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
It looks like it's still out there.
Um, yeah, that's cool.
Never had it. Well, maybe I'll look on
And
Untapped and see if I
then
can find it somewhere.
yeah, for sure. Moving out to Colorado, buying beer as an underage guy. Like I said, Sammy Smith's, all that stuff was
Right.
great.
That was really good.
Red Hook ESB, I drank, a lot of that. Ellie's Brown was a big one. Avery, those guys are fantastic. They've
Avery,
been
yeah,
doing it right
for
forever.
sure. Great stuff.
And all that stuff. And then out in the Pacific Northwest, they used to have. There was a lot of great beer even then out in the Pacific Northwest. This is the, late '90s. There was a beer that I used to love called Dick's Danger Ale. It's basically just like an American, slightly hopped up ale. It might actually be considered. Used to be considered a Cascadian Dark,
Okay.
which was sort of what became black IPAs. It wasn't that. It wasn't like what people think of as a black IPA. But that beer was fantastic. And, just keeps going. I've had a lot of beer in my life, and I've liked a lot of them. They all
Awesome.
inspire me in different ways. Yeah.
Understood. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And you homebrewed for about 5 years on and off before opening your brewery, right?
It was pretty much on.
It was pretty much on. Okay.
Once I started home brewing, I was brewing 1 to 2 times every week, and had a rotation where I would brew, transfer, and bottle all on the same day, once, maybe twice a week, something like that. And I had so much beer, and it was just, for me, it was fun and experimenting
Right.
and learning recipe development and reading a ton, and I would just give most of it away.
Right.
because I
Yeah.
couldn't drink that much.
Because you can't hold on to
But
all that.
yeah,
I feel the
totally.
same way when it happens. When you're brewing and you bottle
Yeah,
it up and you got all these bottles. Like, what the hell am I gonna? I can't drink all this. I'll be
yeah. I
wasted
mean,
24/7.
exactly. At one point, I had like 30 cases in my cellar. I was
Yeah.
like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
And started passing it out.
So if you had one homebrew tip to pass on to homebrewers, what would it be?
Read a lot.
Read a
I
lot.
mean, there's a lot of books out there. That would be my first tip is, just keep learning.
Right.
There are things that you can do to improve your beer, even if you're really happy with it. And lots of experimentation. It's a nice thing about doing a, 3 to 5 gallon batch. Like if you wreck it, it's
Yeah.
not a big
Toss it.
deal. If you wreck a
Right.
20 barrel batch, big fucking deal, right?
Right.
So do that, and then sanitation is key.
Big time.
Clean, clean, clean all the
For sure.
time. Be liberal with your sani. Um, and the last one is water matters, right? So if your tap water is not what it's full of chlorine or whatever, it tastes like fucking dirt, then your beer is going to taste like that too.
Yeah. New York's
So
water is pretty good, thank God.
yeah,
Nothing needs to be
if
added
you
or anything.
need, yeah, exactly. If your tap water is not cutting it, then spend a little bit of money and get good filtered water.
Right.
I don't know what the water situation is out in New York where you can, bring the fucking 5 gallon jug to the grocery store
Yeah.
and
Right.
fill up, right?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Um,
They have those all
those
over the
would be my
place.
tips, and like I said, have fun, do some batshit crazy stuff, but also be intentional. And if you're gonna be tweaking something, don't tweak 5 things at once so you don't know what happened. Tweak one thing and keep tweaking that until you got that piece nailed down, and then tweak a different thing. Maybe you start by tweaking the malt bill a little bit, and you're like, all right, this is where I want it. And then you start tweaking the hop bill, and then maybe you try playing with different yeasts. Maybe you try tweaking your water profile a little bit, but don't do it all at once, because then you're not learning how different pieces affect the larger thing.
Yeah. One of my biggest ones is I write down everything.
Yes,
Like
take
at this
lots of notes.
time we put the water here, like at this time we started the flame. At this time it started boiling. Like I literally do everything.
Yeah.
It's
No, we write down everything.
yeah, right.
And people are always asking me, like, what's in that beer? I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. I wrote it down. I can't remember.
I'll
I
get
made
back to
like
you. Here.
500 recipes.
Here's this book.
Yeah.
Read this.
Yeah, totally.
And what's next for your brewery? What does the future look like for Woods Boss?
That's a good question. I mean, we're currently living the future, so to speak, right? So, we just did this expansion that we're in right now. So we incorporated an event space, additional production, canning, all that sort of stuff.
Yes,
So,
I saw that when I was there. Very cool.
yeah. So the what's next is really kind of dialing in the growth that we've just gone through. Getting everything sort of efficient and running great and all that sort of stuff, including figuring out distro, because we're in it and things are constantly changing.
For sure.
I think we'd like to find a new sense of normal and sustainability within our own work before really thinking about the next big project, should we ever get there. I mean, the original plan from our business plan was to get Woods Boss going great, find success, develop a reputation, and then replicate that original taproom model in other places, right? Be able to bring Woods Boss to other states, other cities, and set up shop and have that small, community-focused, deep craft, rotating beer philosophy going on in other places and bringing it that way.
Gotcha.
I don't need to do 20,000 barrels a year in any regards, much less in cans or anything like that. That's not who I want to be, what I want us to do. So it's, yeah, just keep getting it dialed in and figure out how to keep moving it forward. Don't really
Awesome.
know.
Well, best of luck with
Yeah,
everything, man.
thanks. I'm still
And
a little burnt from the last couple of years, so
I
I
hear
just
you.
want to get on
You
level ground.
gotta take those mental breaks. Gotta take those walks in the woods.
Yeah,
And definitely more concerts this summer for sure. Uh,
yeah.
so if
Got a
somebody came,
couple coming up.
yeah. Uh, you had mentioned, I give people advice all the time for opening their own brewery. What advice would you give to somebody that asked you about opening a brewery?
Um, well, I mean, there's been books written about it. I could probably write my own. Um, I'd say this. Number one, I mean, there's all the stuff that's obvious, right? You got to know what you're doing. You got to have good financial plan. You have to plan both for success and for failure, right? Both of those are important because there've been a lot of places that realized a lot of success right out of the gate, and they struggled to um, live with that success and
Right.
build upon it. They went way too big, way too quick, and then quality went down, whatever. So having a plan on both sides of it. But for me, I'd say, develop relationships within the industry. Out here in Colorado, I know it's not true of every state, but out here in Colorado, we lean on each other a lot. We're all friends.
That's
We all
awesome.
have, these big Facebook groups that are just industry. It's like, hey, anyone have, 11 pounds of this hop? Or my shit's broken. Who's got a good person that can help me fix it?
Right.
And hey, I need a hand. Like my keg washer's down. Who can I come wash kegs at? And being friends and helping each other out. So that's a pretty big one that I think people undervalue because everything else, yeah, you got to know what you're doing. You have to know how to run a business. You have to know how to make good beer. You have to know how to provide a good experience because all that shit matters. But that's one thing I think people overlook sometimes.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
And did you happen to have a funny story for us?
I got a lot of funny stories, but I told you I was going to tell you a batshit crazy one.
All right. So let's hear
So
it. Can't wait.
yeah, so I told you I moved to Nepal to build a brewery, and I
Yes.
did not know what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
Um, the, there's lots of stories associated with that, but I showed up, and the brewery was not actually built yet. They were literally building it by hand making bricks on site there. These local Nepalese villagers doing it by hand, right? Fucking crazy. And the equipment showed up and it was all sorts of fucked up, and I had to teach myself, brewery engineering, glycol processing, and a ton of different things. I had to learn how to inflate jackets that were not inflated so that everything would work. We brought a canning line over from the States here, and I had to reverse engineer that thing and basically figure stuff out. And as a brewer, as an owner, you got to be able to wear a ton of hats, even if they're hats that you're not comfortable wearing.
Right.
You got to know plumbing and electrical and finance
Right.
and
That's what I
how to
hear.
scrape gum off of tables and whatever, right? But at the end of it, I finished the time I told him I'd give him. But I was in Nepal. I was like, there's no way I'm not going tramping in the Himalayas for a little bit before I come home. So I ended up hiking up to Mount Everest base camp, basically, which is not a hard hike. It's just the trail is basically a foot highway. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
But it wasn't like mountain climbing. It was literally just walking the whole way. I did it in my sneakers, basically, with a little day pack because you stay in little tea houses. They got beds, they got food, whatever.
Right.
But I was up there. I was right below Everest Base Camp, and the earthquake of 2015 hit. And I was sitting in this little tea house because I was waiting on a free helicopter ride to bring me back down to Kathmandu because I met some crazy American who lived in Russia who basically owned the rights to Papa John's over there and was doing his first mountaineer experience, and his guide was this amazing lady, Nepalese lady who, was like the National Geographic Adventurer of the Year, like the following year. Anyway, crazy people. But he offered me a helicopter ride down, so I ended up sticking around for an extra day. I was like, I'll take a helicopter ride down. Why not? And the earthquake hit. We ran outside, and it was just fucking nuts. I mean, it was a big one too. It was like 7 point something or other, which is a big, big earthquake. And you just so much noise, and I looked up and I could see basically like the front side of Everest just slide. Huge avalanche.
Oh my God.
And I'm watching it come down. Where we were situated was above the glacier.
Right.
On this cliff looking down the glacier, which was like, I don't know, 200-300 feet below. But I'm watching it come down. I'm watching the powder cloud come towards us, and all the other hikers and tourists are out there. I was like, avalanche coming. We should run and hide. And they're like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, avalanche coming. I started pulling people. I was like, hide behind this fucking wall. And it hit. And everyone started running. We were hiding behind the wall. And then, after that, me, the Papa John's American Russian guy, and the Nepalese guide ended up hiking up towards Everest Base Camp, because we were below at about, I don't know, 2-3 kilometers below is where we were staying at that point, looking for folks that were lost or hurt, buried, whatever. And then I got myself the fuck out of there because I was sick as shit from altitude.
Man, that sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah, and just started working my way out, and sleeping under picnic tables outside at night because the buildings were all kind of falling down, and ended up trying to let my family and friends back home know that I was still alive and all right, and figure out how the hell I was gonna get out of country, because I was supposed to be flying back anyway. I mean, that was the end of my experience there.
Right.
And I ended up back in the little village where I started, where my friends have a coffee house / bar, and ended up bartending for a night in a Himalayan village and pouring people drinks. And I've never, mixed drinks in my life, and someone would order a drink, and I'd be like, I don't know how to make that. Do you know? They'd tell me. I'd be like, yeah, here you go. Just sharing stories of survival and tragedy and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was a wild time. I got back, and 3 days later, I was back on the brew deck at Tommyknocker. So,
like it never happened.
No, it definitely happened. But I had shit I needed to do.
Yeah, that's by far one of the craziest stories I've heard on this podcast. So thank you for that.
Hey, you got it.
I have a segment called Quick Fire 5. 5 quick questions, beer related.
Sure.
Ready? Somebody comes into your brewery. What's one of the beers that you recommend they try?
Depends on what I have on tap, because we're always mixing it up. This is not quick, but I actually don't recommend. I ask them what they like, and then I find them the right beer.
Okay. Favorite brewery other than your own? I know it's a tough one.
Bierstadt Lagerhaus.
Bierstadt. It's a great spot. It's an absolutely.
Those guys make amazing lagers.
Yes, it's really good. I went there not too long after going to your place. Amazing.
Yeah.
Favorite name you've come up with for one of your beers?
Esoteric Mindfuck.
Esoteric Mindfuck. All right. Barrel.
Oh, that and the Phantom Grumper.
Phantom Grumper.
I'm not telling you the backstory of any of them.
Okay.
Oh, also No Root, No Peacock. We have fun with names.
I know. That's why I like that question. Barrel aged, imperial, or both?
All three.
Yeah, it's barrel aged, imperial, or both of them. So I guess both of them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and sometimes it's a barrel aged imperial. That's what I mean. All three.
Oh. Gotcha. All right. You have one keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
Right now, probably Coastal Companion. It's our San Diego Style IPA. Just hits me in all the right spots.
Awesome.
Yeah. You tried that while you were out here, right?
I believe so.
Check on taps.
Unfortunately, I'm not that guy. I
Yeah,
should
that's all
be.
right.
I should be, but
Yeah.
I completely forget. I'm like, oh, this beer is good. I enjoy this beer. I'll try to remember it.
Right.
I don't go,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
People are like, how do you have no beers on Untapped? I'm like, uh,
I think I've checked in like 10 beers in my life,
yeah,
and they're all my own.
right, exactly.
So,
So,
yeah.
well, Jordan, that's all I got for you, man.
Mike, glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah,
Good seeing you, bro.
thank you very much. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order Podcast. Jordan Fink, Wood of Woods Boss Brewing Company in Denver, Colorado. Thank you, brother.
Come see us if you're in Colorado.
Absolutely, will do.